Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Morning After Rolling with the Beard, where we discuss the games we played during game night and some of the shenanigans that took place. First game we played is Carpe Diem, or Seize the Carp as I like to call it. It is a fantastic little Stefan Feld game. I guess it's not really little, but it has fairly simple rules, pretty straightforward to teach. The game kind of uses a rondel style mechanic that you use to draft these tiles that you build on your player map. I know that sounds a lot like some of his other fantastic games like Castles of Burgundy or Castles of Tuscany and Trajan, which are fantastic games. Stefan Feld is definitely one of my favorite designers. But players will be using this rondel style to draft these tiles to add to their player map, and you'll be wanting to complete buildings or complete ponds or complete grape fields to get grapes and or whatever materials the buildings produce. There are random scoring conditions that will be chosen via this deck of cards each game. So each game there's these weird different scoring criteria for each one of the games that you play. So every game feels very different. One game you might be trying to get a whole bunch of fish to be able to score these fish, and then the next game there might not be any scoring for fish, so you don't care about ponds, you don't care about fish. We played this game with 2 players and it plays fantastic at 2. It also plays fantastic at 3 and 4 players. I've played it at all player counts. I had only played this game a small handful of times, 2 or 3 times before, and apparently Corey and his wife play it all the time and he just mopped the floor with me. It was quite an enjoyable experience, mostly because I haven't played this game in years. I forgot just how good this game was, and getting it to the table was an awesome experience, and I'm totally happy that we did. You may notice too that my copy looks significantly different from I think the 2nd or 3rd edition that's out now. It has a little more streamlined modern art covers, mostly white. I kind of appreciate the awkward fish handling on this one of them seizing the carp, so to speak. And the next game we played was a 5-player game of Kemet. I always forget that this game supports 5 players, and it plays fantastic at 5, especially depending on the group. You can have some very interesting table talk around this game with 5. It's an area control game. It has diceless combat. There is an action selection mechanism. Each player has their own player board, and you'll be selecting your actions by placing your action markers, or whatever they're called, onto this pyramid, performing actions such as moving or getting prayer points, which is like a currency, or getting these special powers to upgrade your army. It is a fantastic game. With that being said, it is a scotch older, so some of the iconography and stuff isn't maybe the clearest. For instance, the attack icon is like a hand holding a sword, which makes perfect sense, but it's really tiny, and it almost, from across the table, for new players, it might seem a little confusing, largely as the movement is a foot, which sounds fantastic as well, but you would just have to see the pictures of each of these items, and from across the table, if you're not familiar with gaming, it might be just a little confusing. One of the players that we played with Friday isn't much of a gamer, but the game is simple enough with the action selection that they caught on pretty quickly, and actually Marcus almost won the game. I eked out the victory at the end. I did have a small rule faux pas, which probably made the game last a little longer than it should be. And now that I think about it, we may have done this we've only played this game a couple of times, and those were years ago. I don't know why it's set this long, but I think it's going to make it to the table more often now that we brought it back out and are familiar with it. And I'm sure our next games will go pretty quickly, because it did take us probably 2.5 hours to play this game, and it says 60 minutes on the side. So there's that. I made the mistake of, when you take over one of these temples, there are prayer points listed on each one of the temples, and I thought that was what you had to pay to move into the temple, which is incorrect. You actually receive those prayer points if you control that temple at the end of a round. So during the game, the 5 of us did a lot of time on our knees praying, getting those prayer points. And the last game we played was Endless Pass. This is probably one of our favorite games to end the night of a game night. It's quick, it's simple, it's just, squeeze that one last game in there. It is a card-driven game, and if you're familiar with this channel, you know exactly what happened, and Gary won because Gary wins Endless Pass every time we play it. So hashtag kill Gary. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Morning After Rowing with a Beard, and please consider clicking that subscribe button and that notification bell if you enjoyed this episode at all. Again, thanks for watching.